Hey everybody, welcome to this 2,000 subscriber Q&A video special, I guess. You guys asked for it on the poll I put up. So here we are. But before I begin, I want to thank you guys out there, everybody out there who's been watching my videos. If you have been watching since the beginning, if you're an old subscriber who no longer watches these videos, thank you for at least hanging around on my subscriber list. Also, of course, the new people out there, and of course, the loyal people who always like every video like you should be doing right now, and commenting and hanging out with me on Discord like we did all day today. Yes, we had an epic an epic amount of just diverse conversations all day long. And speaking of which, I don't talk about my Discord much, but if you want to come there, hang out with me as well as many other people who, you know, love storytelling in general. Most of us are writers. We're all avid readers. We talk about movies, games. Check out the link down below if you want to join that. But thanks again for all the support. So let us get to the questions, and I'm going to answer these in the order that they were asked. So the first one is from Kieran Westwood Writing. So first of all, go check out this guy's channel. I'll link him down below. Fantastic channel about writing craft. He's been doing this for a long time. He also has an editing service. He's also, of course, a writer himself. He has a new book coming out April 29th. I'm very excited for it. I will link that down below as well. But yeah, all around cool guy. His videos are far better looking than the ones you're going to find here. So if you're a writer out there or love storytelling, highly recommend it. All right, the question. So he has two questions. The first question, have you always wanted to be a writer, or was there a particular moment, book, event that you can pinpoint that led you down the writing path? So I've always been into creative stuff. I've always drawn ever since I was a kid. I've written stories. So here's one. This is from 1986, and this is titled Jake the Ghost. I was in second grade. It's a terrible, terrible story. I don't recommend you read this. Not that you can get it anywhere. There's no conflict really. The resolution is pretty stupid, but you can see I've been monkeying around with stuff like this. This one though, the ball, who couldn't bounce? I mean, look at the personification already with a ball. So this one I wrote when I was also in second grade, I believe, and it is bound in this handy dandy wallpaper. But I actually won an award for this one. But the actual moment that I thought, or my epiphany when I decided to actually take writing seriously. So back in, man, I think it was 2013, maybe 2013 to 15, where a friend of mine, my best friend, he was into writing as well. There was this thing called National Novel Writing Month, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and he said, hey, we should totally do this, and so I did along with him. And what I wrote became The Field, which was my first published book in 2017. I didn't finish the book on NaNoWriMo. I think I got about halfway through the story I wanted to tell, even though I hit 50,000 words. And then, you know, a year or two went by, and I thought about it, and I was like, I really want to kind of try this out, because so I've played music a lot of my life. I've drawn a lot of my life, but I think the only thing that has ever really I've been happy with creatively is writing. So I picked up two books I recommend if you haven't read them out there, anybody who's watching. Self-editing for fiction writers, which I often give away on my NaNoWriMos at the very, very end of it. Stein on Writing is another great one. There's plenty of other ones, but those are the first two I started with. I read those books. I decided I must learn the craft of writing before I decide if I want to publish this stuff. And then I went back to my manuscript, and I found out that it was absolutely terrible. And I used those two books to finish the story first and foremost, and create it, hopefully craft it into something I was proud of. So that was pretty much the moment, I guess. But I also hired an editor. Oh my God, it was just a very arduous process, let's say. But I learned a lot, and that was kind of the moment. Another reason being that I like the idea that writing is something you can do by yourself. So I've always thought about making video games or making a movie or again, storytelling in any medium, but the only medium really that is, or I should say the simplest one to do yourself is writing, because you only need a pen and paper or a computer, and you can just go, you can create these worlds, you can cast the characters, you can publish it, you can do all of that. So that is why pretty much that I kind of decided I got to focus on one thing, and writing was it. And I'm not the most prolific writer, but I'm still enjoying it. I'm still moving forward, even though not at the pace I would like. So hopefully that answers that question. I know it was a very long-winded answer. Second question, your thumbnails are great. Well, thank you. Often hilarious, but always well done. Do you have a background in graphic design or photography, or are you just really good at it? Well, thank you. Yeah, I do have a background in graphic design. So I went to college. I wanted to get into graphic design, but the college I went to did not have a graphic design degree. They had a communications degree with a graphic design concentration. So that is where I kind of cut my teeth in Photoshop and Illustrator, et cetera, et cetera. And then I've been working at an ad agency for, oh my God, it's almost been 17 years. I started off with 3D, but really what's kind of brought my graphic design back to, I get to dust off those skills is YouTube. So the thumbnails, which is, forced me to kind of get better at it or remember what I used to do, as well as I run an actual play RPG thing where we, it's kind of like critical role, but far worse, where we play RPGs online. And so I got to make a lot of graphics for that. So all of that has forced me to get better at it. So Kieran, thanks, man. I love your channel. Also, please go check out his stuff. It's fantastic. All right, the next question is from Real Moon. I know who you are. If you could commit arson with absolutely no repercussions, what would you burn down? Wow, this is a tough question. I don't really have any enemies, so I'm not quite sure exactly what I would burn down. Oh wait, maybe I got one. Maybe Mike Flanagan's house. I don't want him to die, okay? But maybe his house where he keeps all of his manuscripts, where his computers are, and also any kind of cloud-based server area that he houses all of his backups. So those things burned down. I don't want to hurt the guy, okay? I don't want to hurt the guy. And I know he can write other scripts, but this would be a temporary, maybe existential crisis for him to reconsider what he's doing. And you guys who know me will definitely get that joke. Okay, some okie dude who also has a YouTube channel. Go check him out. He's way more prolific than I am. I'm on that channel often too, talking about books or topics that we agree or disagree on. But he's also writing a book too. Multiple books, I think. First question, when are you going to read The Devil Takes You Home? Well, you so generously gifted me that book, so I should probably put my foot down and say I will read it next month. That is when I'm going to read The Devil Takes You Home. And for those of you out there who don't know, that is a book that Britain absolutely despises. I won it in a giveaway. And I'm always curious to know, or I've always been curious to know what books that Britain doesn't like, because he seems to like a lot of books. So I'm excited for that one. So why are you so critical over things? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's just how I am. I was talking to my wife about this earlier too, this question. And I said, I'm only really critical over things I'm passionate about. That's it. Other things I don't care about. I have no opinions on. So because I'm so passionate about storytelling, writing, books, movies, all of these things, I get pretty critical here. Although my mom says I'm a very critical person too. So all I can say is it's the things I'm passionate about. And also, I guess my DNA. All right, next question is from Lee Huntz, who's also a writer. He just finished his first arc of series, The Paths We Have Taken. I will also link that down below. And he also does great YouTube book reviews, so I will link his channel too. But his first question is, what is your favorite genre? So my favorite genre, if I had to pick one, it's just really tough because I like to read a lot of genres. It'd probably be dystopian sci-fi, kind of the near future style though. That's really what I'm into. Not so much the aliens in space, and I know I say that a lot, but things like Never Let Me Go, the novel by Kazuo Ishiguro, as well as the film adaptation, which was written by Alex Garland, Ex Machina, which of course he wrote and directed. 1984, George Orwell, the Southern Reach trilogy, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the reason being is that speculation in science fiction is so interesting. And when it's too far future, it's so detached from where I am now, or where we are now as a species, that I don't find it as interesting. I mean, it's kind of fun to think about, but when you can really imagine, I guess Foe by Ian Reid is another one. When you can, it's so close to you that you can imagine it happening, and plus it's just such a familiar exploration of the human condition, I guess. That's why I love it so much. And a lot of times these are cautionary tales. They're often bleak, and I love bleak stuff. All right, next question. What is your least favorite book? That honor would have to go with, I thought about this for a little while, and the one that came to mind, top of mind first, was All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I gave that book, I think, has had the lowest score I've given any book. And it's weird because I tried to read it a long time ago, couldn't get into it. Then it kind of blew up. It became so popular. And I thought, well, hey, maybe I'm missing something here, right? It's sci-fi. It's not super far future. I know the protagonist is AI, but it's a short book too. I love short books. And I forced myself to get all the way to the end, hoping that there was going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There was not. It made me angry, this book did. Partially because I didn't understand why so many people liked it. I've yet to see an explanation as to what I'm missing, other than some people thought it was funny, or the vast majority of people thought it was funny, and I just didn't think it was funny at all. So, All Systems Red by Martha Wells. All right, next question. Who is my favorite author? That is H.P. Lovecraft. I know it's kind of weird to say because I rarely read his stuff, but I look at him as like the author who's had the biggest impact on me. Like when I discovered him when I was about 12 or 13, it blew my mind. And it's kind of part of the reason why I love Jeff Vandermeer so much, and the film Stalker by Tarkovsky, as well as the video games. There's just something about the zone and the unknown that really appeals to me. So I'm going to have to give it to the first writer who definitely opened up that world for me. Last question from Lee. Are you a cannibal? Well, despite what my thumbnail looks like for my review of Tender is the Flesh, I will have to say, no, I'm not a cannibal. All right, next question comes from Thunder Mammoth, cool name. So he says, "Hi, Jason. Curious if you can give a basic breakdown of what you believe constitutes good prose in written work, either within a sentence or several, and also say a chapter or book." So I'm going to simplify this for you because I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I've actually had a lot of two conversations, maybe, I don't remember, about prose on Britain's channel, some Okie dude who I just talked about. I've come to the realization that good prose really, it depends on the intent of the writer. So I have a couple of examples for you here. So I will read them and kind of explain to you why this prose is good, because really it's about, does the writing itself match the atmosphere, the tone, the theme, the genre even that the author is trying to create, the protagonist, the voice, all of these things. So it's less about sentence construction, I think. I mean, that's part of it, but I think it's bigger than that. I think it's really the most important thing you can learn about good prose is, does it fit the book? Does it fit the story, the character, the setting? So the first scene I'm going to read for you, it's just one paragraph, and it's in a book that I'm going to talk about often in this video. That is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bastarrica. But here we go. Carcass, cut in half, stunner, slaughter line, spray wash. These words appear in his head and strike him, destroy him. But they're not just words. They're the blood, the dense smell, the automation, the absence of thought. They burst in on the night, catch him off guard. When he wakes, his body is covered in a film of sweat because he knows that what awaits is another day of slaughtering humans. Beautiful, beautiful paragraph. Let me break this down for you. So, first and foremost, this story is about a dystopian near future. Again, my favorite genre. You could classify this novel as horror as well. But it's about cannibalism. It's about slaughtering humans, exactly the very last line of that paragraph. So you get everything you need to know about this book in this paragraph. That's why it's so great. So carcass, cut in half, stunner, slaughter line, spray wash, all of these fragments, they are punching you in the head, in the gut, in the eyeballs, whatever. It's like, again, it's like a line of automation, which that word is used here as well. Not only that, these words appear in his head and strike him, destroy him. So these are eating away at our protagonist. We already know that. They burst in on the night. Personification, that's so beautiful. Catch him off guard. So all of these thoughts, all of these nightmares, they burst in on the night. And then finally he wakes, covered in sweat, knowing that what awaits him is another day of slaughtering humans. So again, all of that is completely fitting to the tone, the character, the story, everything about it. That is fantastic prose, in my opinion, of course. The next brief excerpt of great prose, in my opinion, is by Joe Abercrombie. That is The Blade itself. It's a fantasy novel, so it begins like this. Logan plunged through the trees, bare feet slipping and sliding on the wet earth, the slush, the wet pine needles, breath rasping in his chest, blood thumping in his head. He stumbled and sprawled onto his side, nearly cut his chest open with his own axe, lay there panting, peering through the shadowy forest. This says so much about not only the character, but what he's going through. And you can see here that in comparison with the last excerpt with Tender is the Flesh, these sentences are longer. It's this, comma, this. It's on and on and on. It's him plunging through the forest, slipping and sliding, almost cutting his chest open with an axe. So you can see how these longer sentences are conveying a mood. They're conveying this tone. We're almost out of breath reading it. So that's, to me, is another great example of good prose. The final book I'm going to talk about is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins, my sin, my soul. Lolita, the tip of the tongue taking a trip of 3 steps down the palate to tap at 3, on the teeth, Lolita. That says so much about the character in this book. If you're not familiar with the story, it's about a very, very sick man who is he's a pedophile, and he is obsessed with this young girl, clearly named Lolita. So you can just see his obsession dripping with those words, how he separates her name, how he describes how her name sounds as he says it, how his tongue makes these sounds in his mouth. Fantastic book, though. It's one of those novels that it tackles very taboo, very disturbing subject matter, but it is such a masterful work. So hopefully that helps you with great prose, in my opinion, of course. If you have any other questions about prose, let me know. You can join our Discord as well, and I'm happy to answer them there. Che Salvorson 1426, sorry about the pronunciation. I'm sure I butchered that completely. But yes, you are the one who recommended The Forever War, so thanks again for that. Favorite contemporary fiction author and favorite classic fiction author. Oh man, this is so tough. I'm going to say classic is an easy one. That's H.P. Lovecraft, which I've already mentioned. Contemporary, that's really tough, but if I had to pick one, I guess for now anyway, I'm going to pick Jeff Vandermeer, who also I shouldn't say reignited, but reintroduced me to, again, the realm of the unknown, this mysterious zone where if you cross it, everything is just completely alien. And that, of course, is with the Southern Reach trilogy. My favorite, I don't want to call it a book, but I have it in one volume back here. It's technically 3 books, but absolutely love it. It is his best work by far, and I'm excited and both fearful that his prequel Absolution is coming out in October, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. But if you haven't read The Southern Reach, highly recommend it. Second question. Also, have you read Wool by Hugh Howey or seen the TV adaptation? I thought both were fantastic. I have read the first Wool, not the entire novel, but like the 50 or so page introductory, the story he wrote that kind of blew up, and then he said, oh man, I should probably turn this into a series and make a lot of money, which he did, of course. I loved the first one. I felt like as I progressed through the first book with the other subsequent stories, it lost me a little bit. I did not finish, alas, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. I did try the show. Hopefully I was going to revitalize, find something interesting about the property, but I only watched one episode, and unfortunately it wasn't for me. But thanks for the question. All right, next question is from The Falcon. The Falcon Reads. Fantastic channel. I'll link him down below as well. He's also a writer. I had him on my channel to talk about his latest novel, so go check that out as well. But all right, he says, here's what I got. What is a book that left you shaken after reading it, like truly shook? I'm not easily shaken, and I don't say that to brag or anything like that. I thought about this for a little bit, and it's really tough, but I would have to say the closest one. So Tender is the Flesh. Something about that book, it bothered me. It disturbed me. It's hard to say if it really shook me, like I was really, destroyed by it, but that really got me thinking about things. I would say also House of Leaves too. That one was the first horror book I read in a long time that again unsettled me. It gave me this sense of dread. So that's another one. And I guess maybe emotionally, if you're talking about like sadness, of course, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I'm not sure if it's because I have a child now, or if it's just that good regardless. I'm betting it's that. But yeah, that book hits me every time. Every time. That really messes me up. And I came very close to crying on my read along video, but I didn't. I thought I was going to, but I I didn't. Next question. How do you feel about books that pass themselves off as true, but may not be, like The Painted Bird, A Million Little Pieces, etc.? Do you think their value is diminished or not? I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the intention. If they're marketing them as true and it's like unsure, I guess that's kind of shady. That's a little cheap, I guess you could say, but it doesn't really bother me. I mean, I think of stuff like the Blair Witch Project, because that was kind of fun, right? That I remember when it came out, people thought it was kind of real. They had like a crazy sort of web marketing thing that kind of made you think it was real. And then I remember I watched that movie the first time with my daughter, and I told her it was real, and she totally bought into it, and until I told her at the end it was fake. So I don't know. I mean, if you are pushing something out there that is 100% fiction, but trying to sell it as nonfiction, then I think that's kind of shitty. But I don't think that necessarily diminishes the impact of something unless that initial push is kind of based on a lie. So what do you think is the best adaptation of a book? Not necessarily like your favorite film or series or whatever, but the adaptation that you feel got the most out of its source material. I would say the adaptation that, to me, and I know this is divisive, but that kind of distilled the novel down to its best parts. And to me, a better version would be Stanley Kubrick's The Shining versus Stephen King's The Shining. I've read the novel, saw the movie first, and expected something similar reading the novel and was utterly disappointed. The idea of taking a property and getting the best out of it, I feel like that film, as far as the best adaptation I've seen recently, is probably Foe by Ian Reid. I felt like it couldn't have been any better. If you're looking at experiencing the book in film form, that was a fantastic adaptation. Where do you ever draw the line in regards to content when reading a book? I really don't. I'm totally open to read anything. To me, it feels like I don't like it when it's being purposely done just to gross you out or make you sick or whatever. I feel like if it's wrapped up in the story and the characters, that's what I want to see. But as far as subject matter, I can't think of anything that I wouldn't read about. So if you have a terrible, terrible book out there, let me know. I would like to give it a shot. What's the book that you wish more than any other that you had written? The Bible? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, that would be kind of cool, right? Knock 'em Stiff by Donald Ray Pollock. So I know he's not the biggest writer. He's not very popular. A lot of people haven't even read this book, but this book for me was the last book in recent memory that was just such a joy to read. It was sad, it was hilarious, it was disgusting. It was just all of these things mixed together in a big nasty ball of literature. I remember reading it and just thinking, man, this is what I want to do. This excites me as a writer, excites me as a storyteller. And I would love for my own work to have that same reaction. Although it would have to be someone just like me, so maybe that's not the best idea. But anyway, I would still have to pick Knock 'em Stiff by Donald Ray Pollock. Next question is from Magic Thistles. If you could pick one movie or TV project that never came to fruition to finally get made, what would it be? Well, you know the answer to that. And that is Atopiary by Shane Carruth. I know he has fallen out of fashion. He's done some terrible things. He's been arrested, but his fiction is still absolutely amazing. The screenplay is amazing. I'm so disappointed that it's never going to be made. But a runner-up, because you asked for TV as well, I'm going to have to say The Churchgoer, which is a novel that I really enjoyed. It's a California noir, and it was going to be adapted by my favorite Nick Pizzolatto, also starring Matthew McConaughey in the lead. So it was hopefully a way to revisit True Detective Season 1 in some way, but alas, it got canceled. Next question is by Fat Millip. Okay, I haven't heard you called that before, but assuming you've been a PC in the TTRPG, that is tabletop role-playing game for you people out there who don't know. You used to tell the story of your life so far. What interesting tidbits might we gather from sneaking a peek at your character sheet, Jason? Well, I guess if we're talking about character sheets here, it's got to be maybe past traumas, events, achievements, things like that. So one thing I don't think a lot of people know about me, but I used to weigh 100 more pounds than I do now. Health is very important to me. So I would say prioritize your health out there, kids, because once that's gone, nothing else matters. If you look further on my character sheet, you'll notice that I have a quirk where I tend to get lost in thought often, thinking up stories typically. My wife calls it Firmlandia. That is the mystical realm that I venture to when I am daydreaming, lost in thought. Also, I can be a little bit of a lone wolf, I guess, right? I've never been one to follow people or trends or anything like that. So my advice is follow no one. Don't care what anybody thinks about you. That's the biggest thing. So I'm definitely a little bit low on maybe the charisma level. Also, you'll find out that I love to read broadly, read a lot of genres, be well read. Now, granted, that doesn't always end up in the nonfiction category, but genre-wise, because you're missing so much if you only read one genre or two genres. Read as many as you can stomach. All right, next question is from Ali Bara. Your top horror book and or movie recommendations. Oh my God, the list is so long, but I wrote some down for you. So books, House of Leaves, Mark Danielewski, I think that's how you pronounce it. Fantastic book. I have 2 copies behind me right now, like I said. The Exorcist by William Blatty. If you haven't seen the film, great book as well. Even if you've seen the film, highly recommend the novel. Tender is the Flesh, which I've talked about often, which you could classify as horror, I think, even though it's kind of near future dystopian, but it's definitely horrific. Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, the first book of Paul Tremblay's I've read, and I love it. American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. That book will mess you up. Hellhound by Ken Greenhall. I randomly discovered him. I have a review of that book on my channel. Completely underrated writer. He is no longer with us, unfortunately. He wrote a handful of books, I think 5 or 6 later in life. And Nobody talks about him anymore, but Hellhound, love it. I Am Legend by the late and the great Mr. Richard Matheson. Another very highly impactful book to me. It's inspired a lot of things I've written and are going to continue to write. Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. I love it. It's like it's a coming of age tale with evil forces that are rising up. So kind of like It, but a lot shorter. It's still a longer book, but love that book. Okay, movies. I could talk about this all day. I'm going to try to keep it short. The Shining, of course. It follows Martyrs, but that is not for everyone. It's not for the squeamish. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one from 1974, goddammit. Black Christmas, Cannibal Holocaust, but again, not for everybody. Barbarian, The Color Out of Space, which is by far the best H.P. Lovecraft adaptation I've ever seen because they actually took it seriously. They actually had a budget. Nick Cage is even in it. 28 Days Later, which again, penned by the great Alex Garland. Speak No Evil, very disturbing film. I think it's Dutch. Let the Right One In. I love the film. The book was okay, but the film, it's great. Talk to Me, The Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man, not the one with Nick Cage. The Thing, When a Stranger Calls, which is a really great older film. But I grew up on horror. I could be here all day, but I'm going to have to put a pin in it right there. While editing, I realized I missed your second question, which was movies that are better than the book. Well, I've already talked about The Shining a few times in this video so far. And I will argue that to the death that the film is far, far better than the novel. Bring it on, everybody. Bring it on. The second movie I can think of that is way better than the book, and that is Under the Skin. That one is starring Scarlett Johansson. The novel, I saw the movie first. The novel, I kind of expected it would be the same thing, but the novel was kind of like a critique on factory farming, maybe vegan propaganda, who knows? I'm sounding more and more like a cannibal, aren't I? But anyway, what was great about the film, it was kind of an exploration of a woman who is, let's call her alien, and she is coming to Earth, and ends up as a predator, but then tries to fit in, and about her coping with the impossibility of that. So a much more beautiful character study. All right, last question. There appears to be some concern that you are a cannibal. If this is the case, please share your insider tips on how to avoid being lured into a trap and eaten by a cannibal. So because I'm not a cannibal, I got some tips for you. So don't wear any fragrances. You know, if you have to like moisturize yourself, use butter. Salted, lightly salted, heavily salted is okay. Also, never work out. Don't work out at all. Cannibals hate soft, tender, juicy, I didn't say delicious, delicious. They don't like the gamey meat that has been well exercised. Also, no weapons in the house. Live remotely. Don't live in a big city. Also, no animals. So hopefully that helps you not to be eaten by a cannibal. All right, next question comes from Blue Glasser. Hey, I saw how you fixed the first 5 pages of The Way of Kings and the Order of the Phoenix. Love that content. Was wondering if you would do any more of those. Yes, I have one in the works. In fact, it's another Brandon Sanderson one. It's the Emerald, the Tress in the Emerald Sea, something like that. That one's really hard. I had both versions, the one I was going to fix and the text as it is on a screen, and I'm like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work because it's going to take a significant rewrite. But if there is a book that hits you hard and you're like, I don't know why I don't like this, let me know in the comments because I could always do that one first. So also in case you watched or read them, what are your thoughts on the following works? The Old Man and the Sea, I didn't care for it. There's a review on my channel if you want to check it out. I thought it was okay, but Hemingway to me, I've never really enjoyed his writing. I enjoy his philosophy on writing, but I've never really enjoyed his stories. The Sopranos, haven't seen it. I hear a lot of great things. I probably should watch it. Attack on Titan, I watched the first, did I watch the first season? I don't remember. I enjoyed it though. I should probably continue it. I don't know why I stopped, but yeah, I've seen some of that. Berserk, I have not, but everyone is telling me I should probably check it out. Stalker, oh man, oh man, oh man, Stalker. I probably talked about this. I think I talked about this already in some of the responses, but yes, the film, absolutely love it. The source book isn't as great, but I still love it. I played the video game Stalker. I love, again, Jeff Vandermeer's The Southern Reach, H.P. Lovecraft. All of these things kind of live in the same world for me. It's this zone, this forbidden area, the unknown. What is going to happen? It's going to transform your body. It's going to do all kinds of things, mess with your mind. I love that stuff. So Stalker, yeah, one of my favorites. All right, next question. Oh, and do you think AI will replace writers? It's funny. We had a big hangout on my Discord server today, and we talked about this. It's really tough to say. I think that you can right now. There's plenty of people uploading a lot of just shitty AI books on Amazon. I think that nonfiction people are going to be the ones in trouble first because it's all about information and how to live your life or how to solve your problems. That stuff's easy to scrape from the internet and doesn't require a lot of, quote unquote voice. As far as fiction goes, it's tough to say. Maybe when we're, the AI singularity hits and AI is indistinguishable from humans, maybe we might be worried about it, but I don't think a discerning reader is really going to enjoy AI writing. I think maybe mainstream readers, people who are reading like 20 books a week, which there are definitely those people, like a book a day, right? A book a day kind of people. They may not care because they're just there for the, I don't want to say generic, but the experience that they want over and over and over again is the same thing. But discerning writers or discerning readers, I think those things aren't going to work for them. And that's going to be far, far more difficult to replicate with AI. In my opinion, I'm not an AI expert, but you just got to keep doing what you're doing and not worry about it. Just keep putting your art out there. Don't get discouraged because I think that humans will always crave a human voice. Anyhow, your stuff here on YouTube is one of a kind. Well, thank you. I know I don't stick to trends. That's probably why it's taken me 4 years to get to 2,000 subs, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you appreciate the weird content I come up with. Hope the channel grows far and wide. Thanks a lot. And more are ought to know of the craft. Yes, I think writing is such a great, even if you don't want to be a writer, it's because we're storytellers at our heart. We're storytellers at our core before we even started writing. And so we've been crafting stories since just the beginnings. I feel like fiction writing should be part of general education because at least rudimentary level, because I think that just the skill of being able to tell a well-crafted story is going to take you so many places. Okay, next question is from Hell of Helheim 4840. How's it going? What was the best piece of writing advice someone ever given you? I can't say I've talked to anybody who's given me this writing advice, but there are a few things I will share with you. I don't want to just pick one because I think there's so many great nuggets out there, and these are only a few of them. Sean Coyne, he's the editor at Story Grid, and this was a response to somebody being concerned about their ideas being original, right? They don't want to be derivative. They're so concerned about someone saying, oh, this is just Star Wars mixed with Alien or something like that. He said something along the lines of, only you will write it like you, meaning your voice is important. It doesn't matter so much about the idea because you could have, 5 different writers have the same premise and all have very different novels. And so what is important is how you write it, or the mere fact, I should say, that you are you. Another quote I love is from a film director, Nick Refn, not a very popular director, but he's one of my favorites. He said something along the lines of, when half the audience loves it and half the audience hates it, you know you've made art. And to me, that's always impacted me greatly because we're always discouraged when we get bad reviews or when someone doesn't like our stuff. But when you have a mix of it, that to me, if everybody likes your stuff, it's probably absolutely amazing, or it's not doing much of anything. It's too safe. And if everybody hates it, maybe it is bad. But if you have a split audience, then I think that's what you want, because really you should never aim to please everybody. You should find your audience and you should write for your audience. And really, I think, like me, I write for myself. If nobody likes it, it's okay. But if half the audience likes it and half the audience hates it, you know you've done something special. At least I think those words are words to write by. And the last thing is actually an entire book. It's from Stephen Pressfield, and it's called The War of Art. And he has a term called resistance, and it's really something I struggle with still every day. It's sitting down at the keyboard, cranking out a story, feeling like your stuff sucks, feeling like you have no worth, feeling like you have nothing good to say, feeling like you can't write a story whatsoever. Highly recommend that book if you haven't read it. He personifies this thing that keeps us from telling our stories, sitting down and doing something. So go check out that whole book and all of his books. He's fantastic. Here I am in editing land again, answering your other questions because it's a long video. Somehow I missed them. I apologize. Here are my answers. So your second question is, what movie, book, TV show, music, etc. really inspires you in your work? Well, I was on the 5, back in the Netflix on DVD days. I was on the 5 DVD out at a time plan. So I was watching easily a movie a day. I've consumed thousands of films. I would say movies more than books have inspired my writing immensely. I couldn't sit here and name every single movie, but if I wanted to talk about maybe my favorite film at the time of this recording, it is The Return. It is a little known, I guess, in broader communities, but a little known Russian film about a father who has been missing for 12 years. and he comes home and he has two sons, and he's a stranger to them because they're very young. He's been gone all of their life pretty much, except when they were kids. And he takes them on this journey, and it's such a great film. I love it, and really it taught me how to do so much with so little, or it inspired me to aspire to do that in my writing. Fantastic film, highly recommend it. As far as TV shows, ironically enough, this one's a French TV show called Les Revenants, or The Return, right? The Returned. This one, I don't think a lot of people saw it. I think it was 2 seasons long. It's super dark, melancholy, bleak. Again, you can sense a theme because I tend to write darker, bleak stuff for the most part. And it's about, again, these people who supposedly died and they come back. I know it sounds like zombies, but they're not, dripping flesh, and they're not dead, so to speak. And they kind of try to integrate themselves into society again. But you can't leave this small area. It's a beautiful location. It's foggy all the time. It's gray. There's trees everywhere. I love that series. It kind of doesn't add up to much, but that atmospherically and story-wise really has informed my writing. As far as music, I listen to a lot of ambient when I write, soundtracks as well. So artists like Lasso, Cliff Martinez, the Deaf Center, Raphael, Anton Irisari, Jeff Barrow, and Ben Salisbury, who score a lot of Alex Garland's films, like Civil War, which just came out. Low Roar as well. So Low Roar is probably my favorite artist. He died unfortunately a couple of years ago at the young age of 40, but he has this really interesting way of writing music. He doesn't always adhere to traditional structure, and he plays with sounds, and every album is very different. So highly recommend that. Again, very melancholy, very sad music, and of course, there's a trend. All right, your last question is, do you have a writing role model? Well, writing role model, I would like to say Cormac McCarthy, but that's kind of cheating, right? That's pretty obvious. But I mean, honestly, anytime I read Cormac McCarthy, I'm always in awe at what he can do with words, how he can create such vivid imagery and characterization with so few words. And I think that's really what we try to do as writers. We don't want to just ramble on endlessly to describe things and thoughts and locations, et cetera, et cetera. We want to just distill all that down into simplicity. Cormac McCarthy doesn't do that any better. But I would also like to mention my literary dad, as I like to call him. He doesn't know that. Donald Ray Pollock, who I've mentioned in this video already. He's only written 3 books. Obviously, my favorite of his is Knock 'em Stiff. And the reason why he inspires me is he's not an old writer. He's an older man. He's in his 60s now, but he didn't start writing, I think, until his early 50s maybe. So he lived this life, this crazy life. Well, I shouldn't say crazy, a normal life before his writing career. And then he got into writing and he was successful. At least so far, he's published 3 books. And what I love about that is that a lot of times people think that, oh, you got to start early. You got to start when you're in your teens and your 20s and so on and so forth. And granted, I've been writing, I guess, trying to improve at writing, to get better at writing for about, man, I think like at least 10 years now. But it's cool to see someone decide to change vocations in life, late in life, and be successful with it. So I always think he's a great inspiration to me. And I love his prose. I love his stories, of course. So another question is from Helena SF 1782. Congrats again on 2K. Well, thank you. I listed a few questions, so you have choices. Well, I'm going to answer all of them. I'm not sure if I'm going to answer them satisfactorily enough, but we'll see. All right, if you could have a dinner party with 6 other people, dead or alive, who'd you pick? I know this is probably a terrible list, but really it's about, it's full of people who have influenced me creatively, and so I would love to pick their brain. So H.P. Lovecraft is number 1, or one of them anyway. And I know he's probably a terrible dinner guest. He's probably not going to say much of anything at all. He died of stomach cancer, so he's probably going to not eat much and walk away. But I don't know. He's such an enigmatic character, and I'm probably elevating him more than he really should be elevated, because I think he was just a reclusive weirdo. But still, I would love to ask him some questions. Alex Garland, of course, one of my favorite writer-directors, and I would just love to. To me, he's such a master at what he does, and I would love to have a conversation with him. Frank Frazetta, one of my, if not my favorite artists of all time, a virtuoso. I would love to talk to him. He seemed like a cool guy. Ricky Gervais for some levity, because someone's got to be cracking jokes at the table. I love his comedy. You know that, though. Cormac McCarthy, of course, because even though he doesn't talk much, another guy that I would love to pick his brain. Augustina Bastarrica, so it's not a complete sausage party at this table. She's the author of Tender is the Flesh. And again, that book really hit me. It really hit me hard. And so I would love to ask her so many questions. So that is the dinner party. If Netflix asked to do an adaptation of A Song for the End of the World, that's a book I wrote for those of you out there who don't know, but only if Mike Flanagan adapted it. Oh, second Mike Flanagan mention of the video. Would you let them? Yeah, I would, because I'd probably hate it, of course, but people seem to like his stuff, so maybe they would like it, and then they would come try to read the book, but then they'd probably hate the book because the book would be nothing like the show. Anyway, yeah, I'd rather it be out there than not out there, so sure. If you had to choose between a life of movies and audiobooks only, but no physical books, or RPGs, role-playing games for you out there who don't know, or vice versa, which would you pick? That's tough. But I'm gonna have to go with movies and audiobooks because I love movies, as you know. I love books. I love reading books more than listening to books, but losing movies would be really tough for me. And so if I had to choose physical books or RPGs, yeah, I still think audiobooks or movies. So if you were in a post-apocalyptic zombie scenario, what 6 people would you put in your crew? They can be fictional people or Discord members. Oh, I like that. So yeah, I thought about this a little while, and at first, when I read this question, I guess I didn't read it closely enough, but I thought they had to be real people. So I thought about that first, but let's talk about the fictional ones. And these ones are going to be obvious, okay? So Ash from The Evil Dead, right? Killing zombies. Joel from The Last of Us, great zombie killer. Arnold from Predator, because, I mean, why not? Why wouldn't you? Rambo, of course. The girl, I can't remember her name. Mila Jovovich plays her in Resident Evil. You see, there's a theme. I know it's not that interesting, but if I'm trying to survive the zombie apocalypse, I want these people. Of course, you, Helena, because you have a vast knowledge of zombies. You've read all of The Walking Dead, so I'll throw you in there as the Discord member, and maybe you will need a little bait. No, I'm just kidding. All right, next question comes from Matt, or Vince Venn. Speaking of Matt, while editing, I terribly, inexcusably forgot to mention he also is a fantastic horror writer. He actually just released his new hardback edition of his Alice, a Ghost Story, and this fine, very reflective. Hopefully it's, yeah, you guys can see it, but it is full of great, what makes this so special, you might ask? Well, there's a lot of great illustrations in this book that is unique, of course, to the hardback. So these are all done by Matt as well. So go check it out. Link down below. When the F is your new book coming out? I know I'm terrible at this. So for those of you out there who don't know, I've edited, I've paid an editor, I've got everything back. I've written everything I need to write of my anthology, my volume 1 of my anthology of the Worth 1,000 Words, which is going to comprise all 52 short stories, a story a week. If you're not sure of that project, check out the playlist. I'll probably link it down below. But it was where I would take a piece of artwork and just sit down and write a story without an outline or anything. I would just try to get inspired by the artwork rather than using a traditional writing prompt. And it was great. I loved it. So that book's coming out. When the F is it coming out? It's hard to say. I've been, really the reason why I've procrastinated is I had an idea for the cover, because I've done almost all my own covers, and I just haven't been inspired. I've tried it. I didn't care for it. So I'm thinking I'm going to hand it off to somebody perhaps to do it, because I think maybe that's the only way I'm going to like it. So hopefully soon, month, 2 months, maybe. We'll see. You lit a fire under my ass, so thank you for the question. The last question is from another Hernandez. What is a subject background you're well-versed in that you feel is rarely captured authentically in film or books? That's a great question. I don't know a lot of great stuff that isn't captured in films or books. So because I was very, very overweight, like I mentioned, and so I prioritize health and exercise and diet, I know a lot about nutrition just to, avoid being fat, basically, again. And I would say that I've read certain books about physiology and nutrition that are very, very wrong. So I guess I would have to pick that. I mean, for instance, like not eating food or not drinking water, you can go quite a bit longer than you think. Like I myself have gone, I think the longest fast I've ever done was 5 days, no food, just water. And then the longest no water I've gone, I know you guys think I'm crazy out there. The longest I've gone without water was like 2 days or 3 days, something like that. It's called a dry fast. I know I'm a weirdo, but I like to experiment. You can technically go, I think a regular sized person with, you know, not super overweight, you can go 30 to 40 days without eating a bite of food. That's how much extra calories we have. So you can only imagine that if you're really overweight, you can go a really long time. Now there might be, you know, micronutrient deficiencies and stuff because you're not eating anything and you're just using your body fat as fuel. But there's a guy, a famous guy from Scotland who went over a year, over 365 days without eating anything. Doctors gave him minerals and stuff like that and vitamins, but no food, and he didn't die. So that is something I feel like is, when it is depicted in fiction and movies, it's generally wrong. And also keep up the great work in both writing and video content. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I need to button down. I need to get more of the writing out there because I love it. But you know, as Stephen Pressfield says, the resistance is always on my back. But thanks again, everybody, for the questions. I didn't expect so many, which I'm grateful for. I felt kind of weird asking, like, what do you care about my opinions of, you know, me asking questions like I'm famous or something. But I had a great time. I learned a lot about myself, I guess. And now you guys know a lot more about me. But if there's anything else you want me to elaborate further on, let me know down in the comments below and I'd be happy to continue the conversation. But as always, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.